people to how to chew? Am I telling people how to chew? Okay, I'm not chewing brown rice. I'm chewing appropriately a Jerusalem artichoke. How's that? Any complex carbohydrate, vegetable, grain, what we're going to do is take a mouthful, take the pressure off. You don't need to look at the screen. You don't need to listen to anybody. And I chew, count to 10 and put out one digit, 20, 30, 40. That's how I count. So I only ever have to count to 10 repeatedly. And, 50 is a great place to aim, but if you can make it to 100, do that. And you want to keep the food at the front of your mouth, continually adding saliva and not swallowing. It is a relearning of your old patterns. So don't judge yourself if you're not fantastic at it. And let's begin. Well done. I see some really good chewing out there. Meyer's made it to 200. We're going to beat that, Meyer. Here I go, but well done. We have some questions, so just continue to chew while I address them. First of all, Meyer, you look like a wise man on a mountaintop. So the chewing is a good look on you as you elevate to nirvana. Rebecca asked if I could mention something about the size of the mouthful we should take. You certainly don't want to take too big a mouthful because you want to produce saliva to interact with that mouthful, and something too big is just not going to work. You're not going to be able to handle the volume. So if we're used to the kind of shoveling and swallowing, chances are your normal mouthful is too large. So experiment with that. If anyone has any pickle, any sauerkraut, umeboshi, a little bit of olive, that can sometimes, well, always really helps if you're chewing grain to produce saliva, to stimulate your stimulated saliva. And that can be helpful in case your mouth doesn't feel like it's stimulating enough. I give a 90-minute lecture on chewing. It's a huge, huge topic, but the learning of it, the knowing of it is just one layer. And the most important layer of chewing is the doing of it. And when you do it, you'll see that your brain receives a flood of good quality glucose, which the brain adores. You will be more focused, calm, coordinated, inspired, and it feels like you've meditated for a couple of hours. Let's see what the other ones. Mouthful. Easier to chew longer with a large mouthful. That's true. That's true. I would say you don't want to go big or small. It's kind of medium. It's what's ever comfortable in the mouth. Can you swallow the saliva as it builds up or keep it moving around the mouth? Keep it going. The saliva changes quality as you continue to produce it in the mouth. Like it's after 20 or 30 chews that it starts to actually be active on the complex carbohydrate and convert it to glucose. So you want to keep the saliva in your mouth. You want to continue to chew the same saliva. It's sort of disgusting to discuss, but yet it's what's needed. Ultimately, when you swallow a mouthful of either whole grain or vegetable, because it's complex carbohydrate mostly, you should be swallowing something relatively sweet. The more you chew, the sweeter it becomes as you break down the complex carbohydrate molecules and convert them to glucose. So yeah, you want to, it's counterintuitive compared to what we're used to doing. Are you familiar with Lino's book? Absolutely. He's my churu. Lino is my inspiration, the love of my life, my secret boyfriend. Don't tell Jane. We've had an affair going for years and years now. Now he's a lovely, lovely man. I adore Lino. Okay, let's keep going. Gretchen suggested we do a time, have a timer. And that's another way of doing it. Lino does chewing with a minute-long timer. I prefer counting because, I don't know, I just do. It focuses my mind. But you're absolutely right that a timer is a perfectly reasonable thing to use. And generally 60 seconds is pretty good to get you somewhere between 50 and 100. Oh, David held up Lino's book. Great, great. The Power Eating Program. You are how you eat. Oh, David Sneakus. That's Macrobiotic Healing Secrets. What is that? I'm going to look at that. I got to pin you. Oh, it's Lino. It's another one. The Missing Piece of the Macrobiotic. Is that a chewing book, David?
Yes.
Okay, great. I mean, the published version that was called the Power Eating Program, but maybe that's a version of it. Yeah. Fantastic story for anyone who doesn't know it. Lino's father survived being a prisoner of war by chewing, and then Lino survived being a prisoner of war by chewing. David, how old's your daughter now?
19, a couple days ago.
My goodness, that is crazy.
Yeah, she should be on somewhere. No, maybe not.
Oh, is she here? Is her name Abby?
Yes.
I remember her as just a little pumpkin.
Oh yeah, we have that rose hip pudding.
Okay, Meyer says after 452 bliss to remember the numbers. I hope it's Meyer, possibly Mayer. If you're getting to 450, I just want to bow down to you and absolutely stay blissed out. That's what we need. We need your vibe in the world. Well done. I see that Gnat is being a little nosy and saying that I chew pretty quickly. I do. Stop obsessing about my chewing, Gnat. No, just kidding. I do chew quickly. For me, chewing is not a process of savoring the food, although that is a very, very much an important part of eating. But to me, chewing is literally beating the crap out of a complex carbohydrate. And it's a very practical, I have like a Capricornian 7-metal business approach to it, which is just get her done. And I am very much interested in how I'm going to feel after I chew instead of tuning into the food while I chew. I taste it, for me, your average meal, the first third, I sort of wolf down, especially if I'm very hungry. The second third, I enjoy. And the third third, I chew. Now, that's not federal policy every single time, every single meal, but it tends to be my habit. Jane mentioned that Lino chews quickly. Yeah, it's not about savoring. I mean, it can be, but it's about, and when I start my lecture, I often say to people, I mean, here we are spending so much time thinking about food, talking about food, procuring our food, cooking our food. And now we're being told every single meal that we have to sit down and like bliss out on every single grain of barley. Like that's just not going to happen. This is also incredibly potent, powerful, magical fuel. And this is the way to get it into your gas tank in the most magical way. So I'm not going to pay attention to every grain of barley, but I will do my best to break it down so that my body uses it most efficiently. No, all has dissolved into liquid, which I swallow as the volume is too large to concentrate on any solids. Yeah, absolutely. It should be liquid. I mean, are you still in your first mouthful, Meyer? I can't hear you.
No, I'm on my third.
Okay, well done. Where are you?
I'm not counting this one because I've
interrupted you.
I went to get pickles.
Oh, okay. Where are you in the world?
Where?
Yeah.
Berkshire Mountains.
Oh, where? What town?
Worthington.
Oh, okay. I lived at the Kushi Institute and then in Lenox for a number of years.
Yeah, that's about 30 minutes away, the Kushi Institute.
Yeah, it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, especially in winter.
We should say it used to be 30 minutes away.
Oh, right. Exactly.
It used to be. By the way, I have a certificate of chewing. I am certified in chewosity.
Are you Jewish?
I'm Jewish. Yes, I am. All my life. I was born this way. Yep, can't help it.
Can I tell my Jewish joke?
If I can tell my tulips on a, I have a dirty joke. Yes, go ahead.
What kind of Jews wear overalls?
Oh, gosh, my gosh.
The Ashkenazi. Yeah. See, Jewish jokes don't have to be mean. Jokes don't have to be mean.
That's a good one. I always thought that deaf people could be very good chewers because they could talk and chew at the same time.
That's very interesting insight.
I can only talk because I finished. I just had half a cup.
When I was in Jerusalem and the last night I was in Israel, Gnat and Sheldon, and can we just have a moment for Sheldon?
Amen.
Can we just take like a moment as we chew to bring in the friend whom I called Sheldon Sheldonovich? not his real name, but I loved calling him that. Sheldon
Sheldon.
Sheldovich, one of my favorite people in the world. As we all think of him, he is absolutely here in spirit. So grateful to have known Sheldon, to have known him well and for a long time, and to have loved him and felt very loved by him. Loved Sheldon, loved his miso soup. I miss
Loved his
him.
wife.
Yeah, of course. His
We all
wife.
miss Sheldon.
I miss
Um,
seeing the two of you at the side of the parking lot at French Meadows.
Among other things.
Well, my last night in Israel, Ganat and Sheldon took me to a restaurant in Tel Aviv that was entirely dark. And you went into a space and you experienced it as if you were blind. And it was an extraordinary experience. And talk about tuning in with not only chewing, but every other sense beyond sight. So thank you for that. I'll never forget that.
You know what the couple at the next table were doing?
No. What were they doing?
I could only hear.
Sheldon,
Keep doing, everybody.
They were masticating.
Sheldon was the first one I learned chewing from years and years ago. And the most that I remember distinctly was, don't expect your food to stay warm. Forget about it.
So true, Clara. So true.
See, Jessica can chew and talk at the same time. That's a skill. That's perfected over many years.
It's rude, but I can do it.
If it doesn't all come spurting out.
For me, it moves beyond numbers into a sensual experience. It's about feeling the food, feeling the consistency, feeling it move into liquid, feeling. It's no longer a cognitive process, and I lose the ability to kind of really, count. And what does it really matter whether it's 550, 100, or 150? The main goal is to get to the dissolution of the solidity of the food and have it totally macerated with saliva, so that the next step, the stomach can receive it and do its thing.
I would posit that one of the reasons you get to that highly sensory place is possibly because you've chewed a couple of bites using numbers. In other words, when I chew well, I enter my parasympathetic nervous system. I start breathing differently. I start perceiving more sensitively. And yeah, I too throw away the numbers because it just becomes a sensory experience. But until I do that initial chewing, it's difficult to achieve that state. So you sound like a chewer as you describe it.
It's like you have to learn the chords before you can be virtuoso.
Virtuoso.
Ah, virtuoso!
And if you're getting upwards of 250, 300, you also have to be aware of your masseter muscle getting a little bit tired. So then you have to repace yourself to continue. Otherwise, if I were chewing at someone else's fast pace, I might, want to give up at a certain place. So it's an interesting kind of inner relationship with the texture and the composition of the food.
With that beard, my friend, you really are a churu.
And you can speak and also chew. Wow.
Yes, yes. I'm so glad you're here because you're really chewing the chew.
He
Doing
has
the chew.
dessert here.
I'm so glad that you offered this.
I just chewing is the secret weapon. It's the fourth dimension of macrobiotics. I feel most of our efforts are wasted if we don't thread the needle of chewing at some point.
You
No,
choose
yes,
to chew.
it's bringing me back to, the basics.
Jessica, do you want to bring in Alex Jack, who is certainly chewing?
Oh my goodness, is Alex here? Can we see him?
Cheers.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Alex,
Mhm.
it is
Hey,
with
Jessica.
profound pleasure and enormous respect and affection that I introduce Alex Jack. You are, I'm sure, all familiar with him and the prolific work, that he has done, his prolific oeuvre of macrobiotic works, both by himself and with Michio Kushi. So without further ado, about 9-Star Key, Alex Jack.
Jessica, thank you so much for all of your intervention and your comedy and your spirit and your wisdom and your willingness to get dressed so early in the morning. Thank you
I'm
very
not
much.
dressed. I'm not dressed. Are you kidding me? Thank you, everybody. After Alex's lecture, I'm going to take a 4-hour nap. Good night.